welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Lilomi, and in this video I'm showing you a tutorial on how to make this chunky cardigan I have on. Let me go a little bit back so you can see it in its full glory. This jacket is actually a recreation from another chunky cardigan I've made. I bet you've seen it in the intro, and yeah, let's jump right into it. For materials, I will be using a 10mm hook as well as this lovely yarn right here. The brand is called Superwool, and here are some extra details to the yarn specifically. So I will insert on screen how much yarn I used for this specific project, and we can start now. This is the chunky cardigan that I made that we're going to be replicating today. And making this cardigan, we're going to need panels. I made this using panels. As you can see, we have 2 front panels and then 1 big panel in the back. But for the arms, I crocheted, I attached all these panels together, and then I started crocheting the arms outward, because you can see it's still double crochet, but you can tell there's a difference between the stitches because of how it was made. But I think I want to achieve this look on the arms for this project that we're going to be taking on. What I would like to do for the cardigan that we're going to be working on is make it a bit shorter, a bit cropped, and obviously it's going to be more in this burgundy color and white, and we are definitely going to be using the same methods I used on this cardigan, on the new cardigan that we are making today. So I wanted to show you how I go about sizing for any type of cardigan that I personally make, and please feel free to use these methods because I do think that they're very effective. So all you need really is a tape measure, right? And how to go about measuring for your back panel. What I like to do is start from where I feel is the middle, the center part of my arm, and then hold that part until the next your other arm, where you feel is the middle part of your other arm here. And whatever measurement you get, that's gonna be the length of your back panel, right? How you go about the front panels, these 2 front panels, I like to measure from my stomach, not the chest or anything. I like to measure from my stomach. So where I do is I start from the middle part of my stomach, and then I end to right here, the side of my belly. So I measure from the middle to the side, and I do this because I know that there is a significant amount of ribbing that I'm going to put, around 5 to 7 centimeters of ribbing. So I know that that extra is gonna count on how it's gonna affect how baggy my cardigan would be. I hope you understand that. So from the middle of your stomach until your side, that would, obviously you're not going to be pulling it tight. It's gonna be a little loose, and then you just see what measurement you get. Then yeah, that will be the size of your panel. I already have a panel ready and prepared for this project, and it's about 20 to 25 centimeters. So yeah, from the middle of my belly into my side, right? From the middle to my side. And I think when you have a front panel available, it really helps you how you're going to measure your arm panels. So with this front panel here, I already know that I need to leave a significant space right here by my shoulder for the ribbing, right? So you just leave a little space for ribbing, and then here is where your front panel would technically be starting, right? So you can see that your panel is already into the arm. Your front panel is already getting into the arm, so which means that you have about this much of space that you need to measure and make sure that your next your arm panels are the size of this length right there. But then without forgetting as well that we have some ribbing that we need to add also, which, my god, the wrist. Not forgetting that we have to add some ribbing to the wrist. So now you can tell that you can see that the length of your arm panel is not supposed to be that great, but it's still supposed to be a bit longer, What I prefer to do personally is just attach the front, like the front panels and the back. Just throw it all over, like on top of me. Just attach these parts, of course the shoulder parts. Just throw it on top of me and then try to determine how much, like how long I need my arm panel to be. So when you have it on you, thrown on you like this, you can like measure better, starting from this point right here that I've secured, and then you just have to pull on. You just have, like around here, you just have to pull on the measurement tape and then just see about how much you have until your wrist. Ribbing for the wrist is usually longer than the surrounding of the cardigan and everything. So let's just say about 10 centimeters for your cuffs, for your ribbing, for your cardigan. So that is how I go about sizing for this specific cardigan. Like you could do this for any other type of cardigan that you'd like to make, but specifically this one, since it's like a chunky type of cardigan, you know, like you don't need that many stitches, but the length, I'm pretty sure you're gonna understand what I mean. Just simple. And obviously you're not supposed to be like approximate on like, okay, on the dot 50 centimeters. No, you can obviously like go higher, go lower. You just see what you like. If you were looking for something like longer or bigger, then you just adjust the sizing to your liking. And yeah, happy crocheting. These are some approximate measurements for my cardigan, and they size up to an M. For the main body of my cardigan, I'm using this burgundy color here, and for the ribbing, I chose to use like a white color, just because my other project was I had burgundy ribbing, and then the body of the cardigan was not silver, gray. It was gray. So to start off, I will be using a 10mm hook, and you would want to make a slip knot. How I make my slip knot is so. And then you pull your yarn. Now you have a slip knot. So I absolutely adore the size of the panels that I had in my previous, like in my last chunky cardigan. So I want to make all my panels to be like 22 centimeters. So what you're going to do is chain a number of chains that amount to 22 centimeters. So right now, I'm just going to keep chaining until I have a chain length of 22 centimeters. So right now I have 19 chains, and let's measure to check if it's long enough. So yeah, 19 chains are going to equal 22 centimeters, and this is the size of both your front panels. So what we're gonna do is, out of these 19, you want to chain one extra to make them 20. With this chain, this is going to show that like we are starting off our panel, and we are going to be also crocheting using double crochet. After that, you are just going to turn your work, you yarn over, and then you do not insert your hook into the first chain. This 20th chain that we made, you're going to insert your hook into this one, the second one. So you then make a double crochet. Make sure that you have 3 loops. You yarn over, loop out of 2. Make sure that you have these 2 left, and then you yarn over, pull through the rest. All you have to do is double crochet this row until you have the length that you want. And like I said, for this specific cardigan, I want it to be quite cropped, significantly like cropped from the one that I've made before. So I'm not going to be making it the same length that I did my previous cardigan. So yeah, you're just going to have to keep double crocheting until you reach a length that you like. I'm of course going to show you which length that I get to and how it looks like. Mind you, do not forget that we need 2 of these panels. So yeah, this is what it's going to look like so far. I absolutely love this yarn. It's so thick. It's really chunky. So yeah. Also, please do not put too much tension while you're crocheting. Also, don't make it like too loose as well. Just, you know, a normal amount of tension so that your project comes out lovely. And 19. This is the last chain that you're going to then put your last double crochet. So now we have our first row for the first panel. After you're done with your row, what you're just going to do is chain 1 and turn your work. And when you turn your work, you would want to then insert your hook, like start your stitches into the first double crochet stitch right there. So you just yarn over and insert your hook into the stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and then you yarn over, pull through the last time. As you can see now, we have our first double crochet right there. This is our first double crochet. And you just continue with the row by inserting into the next stitch. And into the next. Just continue feeding into this panel until you reach a height, like the length that you like, that you think, okay, now I'm satisfied. This could be like as long as ever, or it could be as cropped as ever. You just have to keep crocheting and keep going. And I just want to show you that you will be finishing off every single row the exact same way, which is just continuing double crocheting until you reach the end. So right here is my last double crochet. Mind you, this can look a little bit confusing and look like just like the chain that we did make, but the chain that we made is all the way down here and a little bit like shriveled up, crumpled up, you could say. So you yarn over, insert your hook, and then you make your last double crochet. And also, just to be sure, I think it's also like just wise to just count your stitches, how many stitches you have like in the first couple of rows, just so that you don't get lost. But after like 4 rows or so, yeah, it's just second nature, like you won't be confused or anything. So you're going to chain 1 again, and then turn your work and insert your hook into the first double crochet that we have right there. So it's yarn over and you continue with the row with your double crochets. Yarn over again and into the next stitch until you reach a length that you like. I am now finished with the back panel as well as the 2 front panels right here. So I decided to make these like into 18 rows. So here you can see the front panel for this part, and then that part. You need to make sure that you have the front, like the back ends facing each other, and then the front ends outside. Yeah, so you just organize your panels and just make sure that they are in the right positions. So now that I have my panels in the positions that I want them to be, I know that for my panels I have, for each front panel I have 19 stitches, right? So I want to then count here on the back panel 19 stitches from this first one until the 19th, and then I'm going to be using these stitch markers right here to connect these corners, like this corner, and then by the 19th stitch on the back panel as well, and then I'm going to do the same on this panel. My stitch markers have secured my panels in place. What we want to do now is to connect it, like just connect this part to this part. And what I do for that is you're basically going to need to turn your work inside out. So make the outside, like the front, face each other, and then the inside of your cardigan to be out. So that's all you're gonna do. You turn it inside out, and then you're just going to have to sew to attach. Whatever attaching methods that you personally use, you can use to attach here. It's like either slip stitching or just sewing it, and I feel like sewing would be the best solution for this cardigan. Attaching the shoulder. So what you want to do when attaching it to your project is you want the inside facing forward and then the outside to the back. So what you can do is like you can easily count stitches to determine which is the middle stitch, or you could use a tape measure to measure your arm panel and determine which the middle part is. And in this case, it's going to be like 23.5 centimeters, and the middle on the arm panel is like the 18th stitch. So what I do right now is I'm just going to open this part right here. I already know that I have this part as my middle part where I connected my pieces together, and you can just easily attach your stitch marker to this part right here, to the middle part. That's how you know that your arm panel is going to be equally divided between the front panel and the back panel. And you attach this side to this side of your cardigan as well to make the arm panel. So this is the arm panel that has already been attached to the project and everything. And I want to show you now how to add the cuffing to your arms. So you want to insert your hook into the first stitch, the first double crochet stitch, and attach your yarn. I'm using this white yarn for the cuffing. Once I have my yarn attached, I'm just going to make a chain, and then into that same stitch you want to make a single crochet. This is your first single crochet. Now just add a single crochet into every single stitch right around until you get back to this first single crochet, and just slip stitch into that. So add a single crochet into every single stitch right around. While I'm crocheting, I like to hide my yarn. So as you can see, this extra yarn, I'm just crocheting it underneath these other single crochets. This would be my last one, and then I could just leave this to cut it later. So this is what it's looking like so far, and you're just going to have to continue right around until we reach back to this point and slip stitch into the first single crochet that we made. After you're done slip stitching, we're going to make a chain and then start decreasing. After chaining, you're just going to ignore this stitch that we have here because we want to start decreasing our work. So all you have to do is like move on to the next stitch and then make a single crochet into that. After your first single crochet, you're then going to insert your hook into the first stitch, the first single crochet stitch, and then the second. So you insert your hook into the first stitch and then you make it go through the next stitch so that you have 2 stitches on your hook. I'll focus that more. Once you have these 2 stitches on your hook, you're just going to grab your yarn over and pull through these 2 stitches and then finish off with a normal single crochet. So right here we just decreased 2 stitches by making them into 1. So what you're going to do is then make sure that you see that these 2 stitches have been packed away, and then you move on to the next to make 1 single crochet. And then now we decrease the next 2 stitches that we have here. So you just insert your hook into the first stitch right here and then make your hook exit through the second. Yarn over, pull through, and make a single crochet. The next stitch, you're just going to make a normal single crochet. Okay, moving on is decreasing. Insert your hook into the first stitch and then out of the second. Yarn over, pull through, and make a single crochet. The next is just a normal single crochet. Next is a decrease. Insert your hook, push it through. So I just made a decrease and I am left with these 2 stitches. You can either decide to just make 2 single crochets or decrease again, however you'd want. You can just assess how your cuff is looking, how it's feeling like. If you feel like this is enough space, or if you'd like to decrease even more, you could just do whatever you would want with the last 2 or 3 stitches. But for me, I would like to decrease, so I'm just going to take these last 2 stitches and make them into 1. After doing that, you're just going to simply slip stitch into the first single crochet and you have your cuff right here, part of your cuff, almost. After connecting your line, you're going to chain 6. So this chain 6 is going to like work as the cuffing for our arms. After you're done chaining 6, you're going to want to single crochet into the next 5 stitches. Single crochet back into the next 5 stitches. So ignore this stitch and crochet into the second stitch. Your first single crochet, the second, the third, a fourth, and then the last. After that, you will then slip stitch into this first single crochet right here. Just make a simple slip stitch. After slip stitching, you chain 1 and then just turn your work to work in the opposite direction. So we want to work back this way. And you can either decide to put your single crochets in the back loop or in the front loop for whatever ribbing effect that you would like. People prefer like different ribbing effects, but for me personally, I'm going to be putting my single crochets into this front loop right here. So you just insert your hook into this loop in the back and then add a single crochet. So there are supposed to be single crochets into the front loop, like 5 single crochets into the front loop. That was my third, a fourth, and then last. After that, you just chain 1 and then turn your work again to work the opposite direction. So this is kind of how my ribbing is going to be looking like. I'm going to continue by working again into the front loop here, where you can see from the top, this is my chain, but I'm just going to be inserting my hook here from the bottom up. That makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. After these 5 stitches, you could just try to put your project flat onto this line right here to just determine if you have to put your next slip stitch into the second stitch right after this first slip stitch or like the third. But it would make more sense to slip stitch your work into this third right here. So you skip 1 stitch and then slip stitch into this chain. You slip stitch your cuffing into the third chain right here. After you slip stitch that, chain 1 and then turn your work. Your work can kind of get tangled a bit, but just make sure that you're working in opposite directions. You turn it to work in opposite directions. So moving on, I'm going to add again 5 single crochets in this direction. And 5. After the 5th, you chain 1 and turn your work and put 5 single crochets again in the front loop in the opposite direction. That was my first, second, third, fourth, and then the last. After that, you check where you last slip stitched, skip the next stitch, and then slip stitch into the next. After you're done slip stitching, chain 1 and then turn your work to work into the opposite direction again. Now I'm going to show you how it's looking like so far, how the cuffing would be. So you just have to work it right round the arm, and then I will see when we have to connect the pieces right here. So I've now crocheted right around to make the cuffing, and here I'm left with 1 stitch, but I would prefer to just cut out a really long strand of this yarn and then just sew the pieces together. Basically, just make sure that you cut out a significant amount, and you can use any type of tapestry needle to then connect these parts together. Here is the front of the cardigan, and right now I want to show you how to add the ribbing right around the front part of our project. So we are going to start in this corner and work our way this way and right around until we reach this corner right there. So what you want to do is just insert your hook into the first chain space right here and then attach your yarn. I'm using white yarn for the ribbing, so attach your yarn. Make sure that you have a significant length left behind, and then chain 6. You're going to make 6 chains. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So into these 6 chains, you want to make a single crochet into the next 5 chains. So we skip this 6th chain and make your first single crochet into the second stitch right there, into the second chain. So that's your first single crochet stitch, your second, third, fourth, and then the last stitch. You need to make sure to be careful with the last stitch since it's not really connected to anything, so it's quite loose. After you've made this first part, what we want to do is slip stitch into the same double crochet that we have in this same row right here. You can just distinguish your rows. This is the first row, and then here is the second row. So just slip stitch into that same double crochet. After you're done slip stitching, you chain 1 and then turn your work so that you're working that way. You then want to continue your single crochets into either the front loop or the back loop of your single crochet. People have different ways they like to make their ribbing. In this case, I'm going to be adding my single crochets into this front loop right here. So I'm just going to insert my hook from the bottom, and it's going to come out, as you can see. It's going to come out here to the front, and then I'm going to make my normal single crochet. Into the next. You are basically going about the ribbing the same way that you do on the cuffs, and I'll show you the two best ways that you can connect the ribbing to the front panels of your cardigan. Only inserting into the back loops. You can see into the front loops, and then you can see the back loops are still hanging back there. Here on the front of the cardigan, you can see the ribbing is done, as well as here on the bottom. But when it comes to the ribbing and connecting it to your project, you can either decide to put your points, like to attach it to the main body of the double crochet, or as you can see, there's like these points where a new row starts. So this is a one row, and then another row. You just have to be putting your ribbing by the first stitch, everywhere where like the row starts, on the stitch where the row starts. That is how you be going about it. As you can see here, this row, this row, this row, or you could just attach it to the main body of the double crochet. The ribbing for the bottom of the cardigan, you kind of go about it the same way that you do the arm cuffs, so which is basically just making your normal rib. But when you're connecting the ribbing to the rest of the project, you just have to skip one stitch and then attach it to the next. So it's basically you attach the ribbing to a stitch, you skip one stitch, and then you attach it to the following one. That's just basically how you do. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and please let me know what you think about the tutorial, what you think about the cardigans in general. If you do end up recreating this cardigan or using my tutorial, please let me know on my socials linked. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next video.